I never know my own strength sometimes.
You're just that manly. See how close? So if you can almost lick the microphone, that's how close you can. You should be able to move towards you.
Yeah, okay. Is that good enough? Or?
No, you're not good enough still. Let me hear you.
All right. No.
There you go. Does he sound better, Fran?
Testing.
Yeah, see how good she sounds? Go ahead and talk, Gary.
Well, I could talk louder, I guess.
No, we don't want you to talk louder.
I mean, I do theater.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you sound crisp and clear. Go ahead, keep talking for me, Gary.
Well, yeah, because I actually got a comment that I actually gave a line too softly, which was like one of the firsts in a while.
You had to deliver a line softly?
No, I was delivering it too softly. Normally we get comments, make sure you're talking loud enough and stuff, and so I always ignore them because they're generally not talking to me.
Not talking to you.
But this one time, Heath came up and said, you were too soft. I went, okay, well,
you were like, me?
Me, sir?
Me? I think you're mistaken, good sir.
Right.
Yeah, what are you talking about, man?
You must have been talking to somebody else.
Right.
Your notes are incorrect.
That's right. I'm sorry. I disagree with everything you stand for.
Exactly. Me too, actually. I don't know if I like that Heath guy. Oh.
Yeah. No.
We have that on tape?
Yeah, it's on tape. We're recording all this.
Heath's a god.
Down with Heath. Oh, yeah, I love him. Actually, he was one of the very first guests we had on the show years ago, and he was just very cordial, very welcoming. Just a good person to have on and explain what the heck the Black Swamp Players are. And that's who we have today here on Stage Door, a theater podcast hosted by a couple of average guys. We have Fran and we have Gary, and you guys are with the Black Swamp Players, and you were doing a Peter Pan? Is that what it's called?
It's not, actually.
No, it's not.
And I will let Fran tell you what it is.
It's called For Peter Pan on her 70th birthday.
Okay, so I was way off, but kind of in the ballpark.
Yeah, like 2 words, right?
I only threw out 2 words.
There you go.
I knew that's all it
100%.
was. 100%. Come to these things not knowing stuff so you can explain it just like the audience hopefully is when they listen to the podcast as to what this show is exactly. What is this Peter Pan?
On her 70th birthday?
Yeah.
Well, I think my elevator answer for that would be it's a love letter to family and it's a love letter to theater.
I see.
And how family and theater can support you essentially from cradle to tomb.
Okay. Wow, that has nothing to do with Peter Pan, though. It doesn't sound like to me.
Oh, no.
Why is it called that?
Because it's told through the eyes. One of the siblings in the family played Peter Pan in high school or junior high, somewhere in there. And it's this event sort of colors a lot of the relationships in the family.
Okay, I'm going to pound you guys more on what the details of the show is, though, exactly. So what if so that, to me, you just said it was a love letter and a romance to life or whatever. What did you say exactly?
Family and theater.
Family and theater.
It starts with Anne, who's also called Number One, who's also Peter Pan, talking about her experience, and then we move on to our father's deathbed.
You pointed to Gary.
I'm not dying.
He's a doctor.
Well, on stage I'm dying quite regularly, but but Fran and I are brother and sister in the show.
Okay, so you're not the one who's dying. So when she pointed to you as the we, you two are brother and sister in the show on your father's deathbed.
Right. There are 5 siblings gathered at our father's death.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
And then the second movement is...
So the whole first movement is just you guys gathered around the bed of your father. Like, how long is that? You guys must have some great stories within that. Right?
4 hours.
4 hours?
No,
so the first act. Is this a 3-act play?
It is 3.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah.
3-act play, but the first act is
the death of
around the death of
our father. But it also exposes a lot about the family dynamic and the relationship between the siblings.
Okay, so that's more what I'm going for. So it's probably the fact that you 5 are all standing around your father's deathbed. He's, I assume, not saying a whole lot compared to everybody else.
He's in hospice in a hospital.
Okay, all right. So since he's not saying a whole lot, you guys are doing all the talking, and I'm assuming that's where the stories are coming in, right?
Yes.
You got a story about something, Fran. What's your character's name?
Anne Pan, number 1.
Anne Pan. And then Gary, your character's name is?
I'm number 3 because we're in birth order, so I'm the middle child.
Okay.
And my real name in the show is Jim or James, and I also play Hook.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so you guys are in this room together starting to tell stories, I assume, about your childhood, about your relationship with your father.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first act is not very long. It's probably, 15 minutes, if
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
It's pretty quick.
Then we move on.
Oh, that is quick.
Yeah, it's very short.
Then we move on to the rather raucous Irish wake.
Oh, this is an Irish family. Okay.
Yes, and the ghost of our father comes and goes throughout.
Oh, so he does pass in the show.
He
Okay.
does pass, and that's Hans.
That's
the way.
Hans?
That's Hans.
It would be Hans Giller. He would be the guy who just has to lay there and have nothing to say.
No, he's groaning. He's groaning, and his agonal breathing
It's pronounced agonal, by the way.
agonal.
O'Connell.
Agonal. That's one of the
Is-
jokes. That's
is
one of the
it-
jokes in the show,
It's like
actually.
Harry Potter diagonally or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
So he does
Diagon
a lot.
Alley?
There you go.
And then Ozzy is also a
No,
ghost.
he got the dog in the show?
Yep.
Look at that. That's so funny.
Yep.
So is he on the deathbed next to him as well?
No, not in the deathbed, but he's
Oh.
in the ghost scene. So we're assuming he's a ghost at that point too.
And is that also like a normal part of the show is to have a dog? Or is this just like a bonus in the show? Do you know?
It's part of the script.
Okay, so this is very much. This one kind of reminds me of like the Peter Pan with Wendy when they have the dog that's in
Right.
the,
You got
the
it.
nursery caretaker. Oh,
Which brings us to scene 3,
I don't want you to ruin the show. Okay, I don't want
which
you to
is
ruin it.
Neverland,
Okay.
and Ozzy plays Nana.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So I'm getting the connections here. You have a bunch of lost boys and girls, you know, that are no. That's not what it is yet, right? That's not until you get to Neverland. Right now, it's just the nursery siblings. So
So the second act is basically we're sitting around talking about our father just died, and that's where we've been drinking, and that's where really most of the stories happen as we kind of relive some of our childhood memories.
Yeah.
And as that act progresses, we recognize that there are political differences.
Religious
Religious
differences.
differences
in
within-
one family.
In the one family.
I know,
Think of
hard
it.
to
That's
believe.
shocking.
I know.
And so those all kind of come out because of being triggered by the father
And the alcohol.
and the alcohol.
And the
of course.
alcohol, yeah.
And Fran's a mean drunk, if you're curious.
What is he talking about?
and then we transition after that wake into a third act, which is kind of about Peter Pan and reliving in her mind sort of the Peter Pan experience. So,
Okay, what is the connection with the siblings in the Peter Pan-y thing now? What is why are
well,
they?
it like Sam
It's
was
like a metaphor, obviously. For
yeah,
something, right?
there's part because I never want to grow up, never want to die.
Mm-hmm.
That's the implication. And again, Peter Pan Anne played Peter Pan a number of times when she was younger, so
Uh-huh.
it's kind of an important part of
Full circle.
her development.
So does that come up then when you're sitting around the deathbed? that time. Remember that time?
Oh,
You know, Anne, when
absolutely.
you were Peter Pan, you
Correct.
were so good at that.
Yep.
And then you turned Republican.
No,
is that
I-
something like that?
Other way around, but you're there.
No.
Other way, but that's okay.
But it was something like that, though.
Something like
Oh,
that.
remember you became this way, and we don't like you anymore because we live in Indiana.
No,
that
we,
kind of
we
thing?
all love each
No,
other
that's-
very much.
we're-
No, actually, the play is written by Sarah Ruhl, who's a brilliant playwright, and it's kind of based on her mother's story loosely. Her mother played Peter Pan, and she met Mary Martin when Mary Martin came through town to do a production of Peter Pan, and it takes place in Iowa, so these are all
I was so
salt
close.
of-
I got one of the I states. I was so close.
so salt of the earth, and it's it's based on. She talks about how the family itself is a character as opposed, and all of us are in all of the scenes. There's a brief prologue, a brief epilogue, but other than that, the whole family is on stage the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not like little scenes with one or two people. It's all of us.
Everybody's important,
Mm-hmm.
except for Hans.
Well,
No, see, this does remind me a lot of my family. And it might be the same situation when people go and see this show, is they may be able to see their family in this big family as well. Because I come from a rural environment. Families, a lot of them all still live down there. I moved into more of an urban environment up here in Toledo. My kids went to performing arts school. So that when we go back for holidays, there can be some going on between all of us as well. So I bet there is situations, if I were to watch the movie going, oh, that sounds like my sister Renee right there. That is totally, and that I bet is the biggest draw to the show.
and one of the things I find really funny is that 1 and 3, who play Pan and Hook, as siblings, probably butt heads the most.
Oh.
But I think it's kind of a yin and yang kind of situation where we,
I mean, you are Pan and Hook.
yeah.
You're not supposed to be the best.
Well, I think we like each other a
Oh, we
lot.
love each
actually,
other.
I think the fact that we disagree actually strengthens our relationship because we play with each other in that. Like, you'll see, and as the play progresses, we from the very beginning we're kind of always picking at each other, but in a loving family way. So
That's
there's
good.
yeah. So it's like. It's a nice relationship, I think that, and then of course Pan is. We actually go to Neverland in the last movement, and so everybody takes a part in the Peter Pan genre. So there's 5 siblings, there are 5 characters in Peter Pan with Wendy,
There's
the 2
sword
brothers.
fighting.
Yeah, there's sword fighting, and so it becomes Neverland for a little while, and then within the context, without giving out too much away from the play, in the context of that, it becomes a very big metaphor for kind of what's happening in her life. It's a very interesting play. It's hard to describe because it's without giving away everything.
Is this a big thinking show then? So are you watching this, and if I'm watching it, am I going to be sitting here going, I got to figure some stuff out here?
No,
What am I gonna,
no. You just,
no?
I know what you'll feel is there's a lot of emotion, both in the sense of, we go through our father's death, which it's not a secret,
Right.
and so that's a very sad moment. And then there's some good comedy in it, and then there's at the end, I think there's a little thinking, but it's not like, it's not like pondering, Tolstoy or something.
Yeah,
it's
good.
like you can go, oh, okay, I kind of got that.
I like that.
I
I like
mean-
that not having to sit there and figure out the whole show until finally it wraps up at the end. You're like, oh, okay.
No.
I think you can take it on a lot of different levels. You can just sit there and take it in and enjoy it, which is wonderful. It may be possible that a day or two later you go, okay. So it kind of works on a bunch of
agree.
different levels.
Yeah.
But it's very enjoyable. It is not highfalutin at all. On the other hand, even though it has the word Peter Pan in it, I wouldn't think it's great for young kids.
No.
No, it's probably way too, cerebral.
There's a lot of talking rather than a lot of action.
Yeah.
Till Act 3.
And it's also a bunch of adult siblings now having adult sibling conversation.
Correct.
After the death of their parents. So
Yeah.
it's
Real conversations, real talks about real important things, and their entire life experience, I assume.
pretty much.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool though. Is there a big section in there at all? Like, is there an age range at all that comes into play? Because I'm throwing it back on myself. I'm the second youngest of 7 children, and it took forever for me to even have any kind of connection with the older siblings because I just didn't know them.
Well,
they're having children and getting married, and I'm still a child. So
There are 5 of us, so we figure there's, even if they're Irish twins, there's probably at least
Yeah.
a 10-year span.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that, how number 5, Wendy, probably didn't know Anne a lot because Anne would have been out of the house while Wendy was still growing up.
yeah, you were
know.
number 1 and Wendy was number 5.
right.
Yeah.
And
So
there
we
are
talk about that, yeah.
there are references to that. There are conversations about how I'm this in the group, and this is what my experience was. So there is
Yeah.
reference to the differences in
order,
ages.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Just my personal. I keep bringing myself into this, but what we look at in our lives, and as we grow up and we do things, people can sit there and say, "Well, we were raised by the same parents," but at a point, they're not the same parents anymore. They were raising my brother, the first one, when they were 18, 19 years old, and by the time they got to me, they were in their 30s. They're not the same people anymore. They had different jobs, they had different lives, they had different everything. The homes, they didn't live in the same city, so in a sense. Anne, who was number 1, was raised by a different set of parents than number 5 was.
Exactly, even though there wasn't a lot of the external change, but being a first-time parent,
Right.
you're kind of like, and by the time you have your 4th or 5th, you're like, I got this,
Well, just everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have a baby when I was 18, 19 like my parents did, but I couldn't imagine having a baby when I was 18, 19. Definitely wasn't settled. Definitely wasn't prepared as an adult yet. My brain wasn't even fully grown, obviously, by 18, 19 years old. So that would be crazy to think that I'm the same person now at 52 that I was when I was, 19. We're just not the same people. So there might be some aspects in this show that touch upon that.
I think so. I think that some of those misunderstandings
Yeah.
or misconnections come about from sort of the lack of the same experiences.
Yes.
At one point, I say, "Oh, well, I was out of the house when that happened. Thank
Yes.
God," and
Yeah, no, that's true too. There's all those kinds of things, lived experiences and where they were and how they were going is going to make everybody grow up to be different kinds of people. So in the end, hopefully it's they are your siblings, and hopefully you can find some common ground and still love each other, even though one went off and was in the military because that's what she did at her age, and this is what the other one did at his age, went off to college. Who knows? So I'm just speculating. Haven't seen the show.
Well, I
we
think.
hope you will.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I think you'll find that there is an interesting dichotomy between the oldest, then the next three, which we
Yes.
kind of get the sense we kind of grew up together, and then the baby.
Yeah.
And you'll see the differences and the similarities between those as they talk through
Yeah.
The
their worlds.
alliances,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, well, alliances, I can see that. And you know what? Even if you are just 2 years apart, you are different people. And there's just because you were born 2 years apart and you came raised by, you are still probably just different. Twins are different. They just have their own minds. Imagine that. So
I know.
when is this show, guys? Do you know?
It opens February 21st. It runs that weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then the following weekend, which ends up in March. So February 21st and 7th. Okay, February 1st, 21st,
Good.
and
It's a
February
double
28th.
weekend then. It's
Yeah.
a double. If you missed
Right.
the first weekend, that's fine. We got another weekend coming out.
Exactly.
For it too. So even if this podcast drops a week after this one does, which I think it is, I think this is going to drop the Friday after you guys already had a weekend. There's still another weekend for you guys to get there and go see the show. I think this episode will be dropping on your opening. Do you guys have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or is it
Correct.
Friday, Saturday,
This
Sunday.
episode will drop opening
neat.
morning of your show,
The 14th.
the 14th. So
Yeah.
it'll probably drop on that day.
No, the 21st. I'm sorry.
21st, I
21st,
mean,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, the 21st of February. But if even if nobody has time to go and see it on that weekend, no fret. Okay, you guys can go see Fran and Gary at the next episode, the next weekend.
Yep. And Sunday matinees like with normal. So Friday, Saturday night, and a Sunday matinee.
Nice.
And I also would say that I've never worked with Fran before, but
Oh.
I'm kind of new to Toledo, so I just wanted to say that one thing the audiences may really appreciate is that she's an amazing actress that's really a treasure here,
Oh.
and she's been around a long time.
Yeah, really.
both and she's she's a little experienced and done a lot of things, and so it's really a treat to watch. This is a role that just kind of is her wheelhouse, and so audience I think
Nice.
will really
Thank you.
come and appreciate watching Fran in her element just act the heck out of this wonderful
I love that
role.
Black Swamp does play. I love that we have a vast, different kinds of theaters in this area doing different kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And there's
And
always
Gary's
something for somebody.
terrific, too.
Oh, Gary's good too. Good. There you
Gary's
go.
terrific. I'm so glad we get to work together.
Oh,
Yeah, me
that's
for
amazing.
sure.
Who else is in the show before Hans? You, Gary, Fran. Who's the other ones? Is it
Nikesha
like
Darby.
6 people? Is it like 6
Nikesha
people?
Darby, Karen Noble, Renee. What's her last name?
Okay, Renee.
Renee, who's married to Kevin from Oregon.
Okay.
Bridget Drew's mother.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All
He's
that.
in the show again. He's in this one too.
No, but
He's in everything. I
no,
swear Kevin's in
Renee
everything.
is.
Oh, Renee is.
Renee
oh,
is,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
And
That's it.
That's it. Is that 6 people?
and Hans. Yeah.
And Hans.
And then Otto, the dog.
And Otto, the dog.
Ozzy.
Ozzy.
Ozzy, sorry. Why do I
Yeah.
call him Otto?
He looks like an Otto. He could be an Otto.
He could play Otto.
He could. That's true.
Which was my grandfather's name, by the way.
Lovely.
Wow.
Little
It's
jerk.
so funny. That was my grandfather's name. Fran was my wife's grandmother's name.
Nice.
No Gary's, although
Yeah.
my dad's name was Jerry. So close enough.
Close.
All right. Thanks for coming on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much for having
Black
us. We
Swamp,
appreciate it.
everybody. Go see it, okay? Bye.
Bye.